Hello, my name is Doe, and I am going to share with you my near-death experience. To start, we have to go all the way back to the summer of 1998, the last century. And why this is important is because it was a totally different time. For those of you of a certain age, you know, and for those of you not, Google didn't exist. I had a word processor. I was in my second to last semester of college at FSU for biology, a Bachelor of Science in Biology. And to do a paper for college and for high school too, I had to go to the library and check out books. We did not have computers. We did not have the internet. We didn't have, well, I think there were cell phones, but not at all like today. I mean, they were phones. You called people. I don't think there was even text messaging. My cat's going to join in. So it was a totally different time, and we were a lot more in the dark ages than we are today. So I'm in it's the summer of 1998, and I'm taking 3 courses, and I'm about a month into the semester. And I was out working the night before and then out with friends till pretty late, and I was feeling fine. And that was on a Thursday. On the Friday in the morning, I woke up with a headache, but it was a really bad headache. And I went to my classes, and I got to one class that was 3 hours long. By the beginning of the class, the headache was pretty bad. By the end of the class, it was really bad. And I had walked to class, so as I'm walking home, it wasn't just a headache, it was a brain ache, if that's how I can describe it. Every time my heel hit the ground when I was walking, it felt like there was a tug on my entire spine. That's the only way I can describe it. So it was so bad that I ended up calling my next door neighbor and asking if he could pick me up part way because I was in so much pain. So he picked me up, and I went home, and I thought, oh gosh, this must be some kind of hangover. I didn't even drink. But I had this headache, and it just got worse and worse. And keep in mind, I'm a biology student, second to last semester. So I've taken a lot of anatomy and, infectious diseases, all these things. And one of the stigmas of that is that every student believes that they have some fatal disease. So I'm starting to think that I have either meningitis or elephantiasis, because I looked and there's mosquitoes that in Florida where I was living, they may carry it, but it's very rare. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm just being ridiculous. It's a hangover, it's a headache, it's a migraine. Keeps getting worse and worse and worse until probably about, I think it was around 6:30 in the evening. It may have been later. I don't know. This was almost 30 years ago now. I asked my other neighbor if he could drive me to the emergency room because I knew at that point, though the last thing of it was a sensitivity to light. And so when the light really started bothering me, that's never happened before in my life, I knew I had meningitis. So he takes me to the emergency room, and he was there for a while, and then I told him he can go home because everything was moving real slow. This is a longer part than I wanted to introduce, but you have to know how he got there. So I've got this terrible headache. I'm in so much pain, literally. Meningitis means the meninges are the coverings of your brain and spinal cord. Itis is inflammation. So meningitis is inflammation of basically every nerve in your entire body. So it hurt to breathe, it hurt to move. There was no comfortable position whatsoever. Eventually I get in and to see the doctor. There's a whole other story with that because the doctor then assumed that I was having that pre-med disease where I think I have something fatal. That's a whole other story. It kind of comes around. Finally, it was 6:30 in the evening because it wasn't until 6:30 in the morning that he finally came back with the tests and said that I do indeed have meningitis. So they put me in a private room because they didn't know if I was contagious or not yet. Antibiotics, all the deal. And I was at this point, I felt like well, the part where he thought that I was faking it, so he didn't give me any pain medication or anything. So this is just getting worse and worse and worse. All these hours that are going by. In hindsight, and even we had a conversation, I didn't fault him because there were 2 other doctors that were supposed to be there. And for one reason or another, one got stuck in Colorado, snowed in the airport, and I forget why the other one couldn't make it. But he was the only doctor in the entire emergency room in Tallahassee all night. So if he genuinely believed that someone was wasting his time and making things up for attention or whatever, he was not going to have any patience with it. And he misjudged the situation and believed that was me. So he ended up apologizing, and I got in the private room. was in the hospital with meningitis, and that very first night, in so much absolute, just imagine the worst pain in your entire, every cell felt like it was on fire and crushed and exploding all at the same time. So I got in the room, and they give me the antibiotics infusion and on the IV, and then also the pain medication. And they also gave me, at that point, a nurse had come in and he gave me a form, and he said that if I wanted a lawyer to come and notarize it, whatnot, validate, I don't know what the word would be, but it was a right to die certificate. And I just put it on the side because 24 hours before, I was totally fine, or so I thought. So the right to die is basically to sign away that do not resuscitate if it comes to that. So this is me, 24 years old, healthy person in second to last semester of pre-med, thinking I have my whole life ahead of me. And all of a sudden I'm faced with this. Like, this could be the end. These could be the last four walls that I see. I just put it to the side. I'm not even going to think about that. And I close my eyes and I just let go. This is where the N.D.E comes in. Within a very short amount of time, I don't know exactly, I felt a detachment from my body. My body all of a sudden felt like it was this heavy thing and it was breaking away, and I was detaching. I didn't open my eyes. I just didn't even move. Like I said, it hurt to do anything. So I didn't even move. And then I see this big flood of light. And the big flood of light turns into beams. And the closest thing that I can describe it to is the Northern Lights. That it's pretty much identical. That it's one light, it's the different colors, but there's ones that get brighter and then more dim and brighter, more dim. And so it was going up to that. And then I became a beam. As I became a beam, things started falling away. These aren't things like my actual physical body, but in that detachment process, what was falling away was the downside of duality. I'll explain that a little bit more in a second, but the downside of duality. So anger, that went first. It just evaporated. Sadness, fears, regrets. Regrets was actually the last one. So I'll get back to that too. Just anything, any bad feeling that you've ever had, any kind of depression, jealousy, rage, all of it just drops away. And as each of those things drops away, that's when you're detaching from your body and you become one of these beams of light. The last one to go was regret. Now what's happening is that life review. But it's not, there's no one else involved. I don't know the time. I don't know how long that it took for this, because you just lose your entire physical. But in the life review, you're seeing the different times in your life that you, because of your life on earth, you made a difference in someone else's life that caused a positive ripple. You see the opposite too. You see the times in your life when you really hurt someone, whether by deceit, whether by just not caring about them, indifference, anything, just being mean to them, but things that really affected them, especially the ones where you may not have considered that it really affected them as much as it did. Not only do you see all these things in the life review, you feel them from their perspective. Yeah, that's a big one. So you feel the effects that you had on other people during your time on earth. And that's the hardest one because it feels so heavy. You don't regret so much when people were mean to you or when people took advantage of you, but that feeling of regret is so strong on how you affected other people. So that one then, it kind of hangs on for a while. And then you're in a space where all that's left is love. There's nothing else. Everything, even compassion is part of love. Appreciation is part of love. Value, joy, happiness, bliss, all of those are a part of love. So the only thing that's left is love. And that's why when people say, oh, love and light, there's actually a reason for that. That's all that there is. You become a beam of light. And this is how, on the other side, you're connected, but you're still separate. You become a beam of light, not separated anymore to any other person. So you're now connected, just like the Northern Lights. You're now connected to everyone, but still separate. And okay, so having all of that, it changes everything. Now, also having that, I did have the choice. I was fortunate. I had the choice. Do I want to return or not? And all of this is happening entirely in the sense of intuition, because that's also all there is. You have no body. You can't feel physical senses. You can't see anything with your eyes. You see it all with your intuition. I say it looks like the Northern Lights, but it feels like, but it is that. That's just the closest thing I can describe it to, if you could see it. But you have no more ears, eyes, no more tactile surfaces, so you can't actually, touch, feel anything. You can't see with your eyes, you can't hear anything. And so all you are is in this state of bliss. The closest thing to that I can compare it to on Earth is when you're dreaming. You have no use of your senses. It's just there, but it's real. And sometimes it's more real than your life on Earth. So in that space, I had a choice. Do I want to stay in this? Absolute freedom. All there is love, complete connection. Or do I want to go back? Seems like it would be an easy choice. Stay there. But I kind of thought in that moment, I want to stay here. But I had a dog, a husky that I had. He was about a year old. And that was my dog. That was my responsibility. I had my cats. I had my friends. I had my life that to that point really didn't mean that much. I didn't get to do anything. I was doing things. I didn't even want to be in pre-med. I didn't want to be in college. I wanted to be an actor. But I felt pressure from, parents, society, different things. Somehow I wanted to prove that I was smart or something. I ended up on this path I didn't want to be. I was an angry person. I did lie. I lied, for little reasons to get out of trouble, like how most people do, and didn't think much of it. I was mostly just angry because I was entirely in a place that I didn't want to be. And a lot of other things too that aren't necessary for here and now, but I was very unhappy, very angry. And then to see on the other side how none of that stuff really mattered. If I had known the truth about life on Earth, why we're here, I wouldn't have felt those things at all. So the truth and why we're here. The other side is unity. You are one beam of light. Everyone else, every other soul is also a beam of light. You're all connected. There's nothing separating you. When you choose to come down here to incarnate, you take on a body and it becomes a duality. So everything on Earth is 50-50, light and dark. And where there's a light, there's a shadow. Where there's hot, there's cold. All of a sudden, that one unified soul that's still defined, there's still different souls within that one, become pinched off into different bodies. And when we start out as these different bodies, we start as babies with unformed brains. So we don't remember any of this stuff. And the way that religion and different religions are structured now, there's so many things that have been going on for hundreds or even thousands of years that say completely not that. But we are the same. We are all, if you look at someone else, you're looking at yourself on a soul level. On a personality level, it's different. That's the duality. So as babies, then we come in, we choose to come in, and our brains aren't formed yet. And then what happens is within that duality, you have the person, the physical incarnation that's connected to ancestral lines. So you have your physical characteristics, and you also have things that are passed down from generation to generation, maybe that had some kind of relevance, like things people had to do while there was a world war going on. They pass on those lessons based in fear and survival to the next generation that's never experienced a war. But there's different things that are passed on. There's different traits and characteristics, like a tendency to maybe be overly emotional about certain things, or a tendency to be more addictive. All of these things are also passed on. So your body is still separate from your soul, but it's together in the same being. So this is also a part of the Trinity the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit is actually, this is going to sound so blasphemous, but I'll tell you about that too. Your higher self is your soul in your body right now. That's the Father. The Son is that incarnation that you are, your earth physical form. The Holy Spirit is all the other souls. So that's how it is. So that's why we're all one, but we are still separate. And then on earth, you also have free will. You have the choice to connect. You have the choice to be good or bad to somebody. It's all going to come back. That's the thing about karma. It's all going to come back. You are going to feel everything that you've done to another person in your own life review. So Judgment Day is not actually an outside judgment. It doesn't determine if you're going to heaven or hell. It's what you're going to see on how you lived your life and what you feel in those moments. Say if you harmed 1 million people, that would seem like an eternity in hell, because you're going to have to feel what you made those 1 million people feel. And it's going to take a while. If you've been a really good person, you're going to feel what you've made all those people feel. And that is the embodiment of love. The closer you can get to that in your time here on earth, the better it's going to be. What else? My religion before this near-death experience, and again, there was no computers or internet, or I'd never heard of anything like this. I thought for sure that there was just a Christian heaven and hell. If you're a good person, you go to heaven. I believed in the old man with the beard was God, and he's going to judge you in judgment. I believed all of that, 100%. And anyone who said anything different, I thought they were blasphemous. And I thought they're going to go to hell. I'll pray for their soul. So this was not something that I had even entertained in the slightest. I didn't know of its existence until I was there and I saw it. And that is actually part of why I didn't tell too many people. I mean, it was the most profound thing that ever happened. I decided, obviously, to come back. But I decided to come back to make my life worth something. Because I thought, if I was just angry and sad and upset, and I was only 24 years old, and I left, what was the point of that? So I wanted to figure out why I was angry or sad or upset, why I missed the boat so entirely on what life on earth could be, and then share that in some form. I thought books or maybe movies, share that in some form with anyone who would listen, because it is so important. So I left out the part about the why, because number one, it felt very personal. And I thought I was the only person on earth that had ever happened to, it wasn't until years later when I had a computer and I heard the term near-death experience. And I thought, oh, okay. And there was a lady who's a famous author now, and she had this whole thing about a near-death experience. I thought, oh, I didn't even think, to write. And I watched a little bit of some of her interviews. I thought, that sounds really familiar. And then now there's just an explosion. You can go to YouTube and just find thousands of them. But at the time, and for several years after, a decade after, I thought it only happened to me. It sounds silly now, but if you don't know that it's ever happened to anyone else, how could you know? So, I didn't think that was the important part. I thought that the important part was the actual perspective. So in that near-death experience, it wasn't that long. But the perspective for my entire life from that moment changed. Maybe if you went on a trip to Bora Bora or to Machu Picchu, or you went on some really big trip and it changed your life forever, it's kind of like that, but to the millionth degree. So my perspective for life has changed. Given that, I still have the physical. So I still have the ancestral trauma and how I was raised and anything about a human. And there's different problems that come with being one of a few that has had that near-death experience, because it's easy to see the big picture, but it's often hard to see the smaller pictures. And for a while there, again, this happened almost 30 years ago. So for a while there, I got a little too into meditating and spending too much time meditating, because it's just so wonderful. really deep meditations, having all these profound things. But that's not why we're here. We're here to experience life on earth. We're here to use our physical senses, and to taste things and touch things and smell things and connect with people who are separate, but they're still us. It's such a beautiful thing. And it's something you cannot experience in unity, which is when you don't have a body. Because in unity, there's no downside. It's all just pure love. There's nothing else. So then when you come to the earth and you have building and you have tearing down. You have, even with bodies, you have a baby and they grow up and they have all the cells dividing and they're growing. And then as we get older, it's the decaying. So there's an opposite to everything. And that's where the free will comes in, is where you can have anger or you can have compassion. Which would you choose? And compassion doesn't mean that you then allow people to do the bad things to you that cause you to be angry. It just means that you don't keep that anger inside of you. So this is, long story short, this is where all of my books, all the work I've been doing the first time I posted, I was on Facebook and just started my work. I didn't know where and when to start. I did some movies, I did some things, and I ended up just going full force with the books, and there's a 12-book series. I'm not trying to sell you, but I am. I would love, like I said, I would love for everyone to know all of this. And that's where they are. Karma is about what you do to others, you're doing also to yourself, literally. Not today, but nobody escapes it. You're going to feel it when you're in your own life review. And so there's the 12 laws of karma in the karma book, and then intuition and how to connect more with your intuition. And that's how to evolve through and do your ancestral healing. That's how you know it's you. The intuition is a sense, and intuition means learning from within, literally. So that's book 2 is intuition. And then book 3 is forgiveness, which is about letting go of the past and removing all that anger and resentment from inside of you. The next one is trust. Trust is about the present and future, trusting yourself again and learning how to trust other people safely. The next one, now that you got the clean slate, you got the past wiped away, you know when it's you understand that karma is just action and consequence. So you'll have an intention, an action, and a consequence. And sometimes you have a good intention and a really bad outcome or consequence. Don't change the good intention ever. Just look at the method, look at the action, because sometimes when you leave yourself out, then the consequence will be that you're left out. So there's a lot more. But then book 5 comes appreciation. And that's where you start rebuilding, because you've cleaned the slate, you prepared the way for the future, but now what? It's like pulling all the weeds out of a garden and having an empty lot. So appreciation is where you start putting the good things in, start appreciating things, start, get a ripe peach, or if peaches aren't your thing, get a piece of chocolate and absolutely enjoy it, knowing that this body is finite. The soul is infinite, but the body is finite. Don't waste anyone's time. Don't lie to people, because when you're on the other side, it all looks like it's gone by so fast. And you'll wish you would have loved more. You wish you would have enjoyed more. You wish you would have not wasted people's time. You wish you would have not let people waste your own time. And use all your senses when you hear the birds singing in the morning, because you have ears. And when you see the beautiful sunsets, and you'll see, if you look on especially on my Facebook page, because that's the one where I had posted the most, when you understand now my why, you can really see everything. And the ability to slow down and appreciate all these things in this world. There's a lot of things, like I said, there's a duality. So the better it gets, the worse it gets. There's that splitting. But the more that you're able to detach from, not totally ignore things, not don't help anybody, but to be able to enjoy your time here on earth. Now, there's 2 things. There's a purpose and a dream. So your purpose is your soul's purpose. That's what you give to the world while you're here. It doesn't have to be enormous, but it has to be out of love and kindness. And that's what you're doing a little bit every day. It might be to one person. It might be to your own child. It might be to a massive group of people, or somewhere in between. But every single day, no matter who you are or where you are, you have choices. Are you going to act out of anger or compassion? Are you going to act out of sadness or out of hope? Are you going to act out of love or out of fear? And the more of the positive choices you make, the bigger the impact you're going to have on people in your time here. That's your purpose. So it doesn't matter the vocation, the job, whether you're an author, a cashier, anything. It's the good that you do for others. The dream is the one for your body, for your ancestral, for your lineage. So the dream is to have the things and to enjoy the things that your ancestors couldn't. So maybe that is love. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it is abundance. Maybe it's all of those things. But to give yourself a dream it's for the self, but it's also for your entire lineage. Because you've come from your parents and your grandparents and your grandparents' grandparents and people who have lived through a lot and people who have had real hard times. If you look at anything from, crossing the Atlantic in a boat or carving out trails and setting up homesteads and chopping down trees to building houses, they had a really difficult time. All the diseases. So all of those experiences are still in your own physical DNA, in your body. They've been passed down. And the way that you can heal your entire lineage is to live your life with the most love and freedom and enjoyment that you possibly can. Big stuff, right? So all of the books in the series, as of right now, 2024, what are we at? June 2024, 5 of them are available. And there's 12 in the entire series. And that's my life's work. That's my purpose. And my dream for my personal body is for as many people as I was, back there in 1998, as many people who can take this and who can apply it to their life, not because I said so, but because of the things that you discover within your own life, who can apply it to their life and have a better life and give other people around you and animals and pets and the environment, give this world the best you possible. That is my dream. So thank you very much for being here. And I'm definitely, if you have any questions about the near-death experience, I have some notes in the other room. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and I've never lied about it. But in fact, I've been interviewed. Someone had asked me in a comment a few years ago. They said, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, well, I had a near-death experience. And they said, oh, where can I read about it? Or where can I see it? I was like, we haven't really talked about it. Again, I kind of thought when that first author had come out with the book, I thought, okay, now people are going to know about it. And then when I saw more of them popping up, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that's good, because I didn't really want to share it. And part of it, I realized, is that's me not being fully honest, is it? So when people say the truth, the whole truth, I should be forthcoming about that and share that instead of waiting for people to ask. So I did have a couple of interviews where people had asked, and I told them a shorter version of what I just told you now. But I never actually put anything on my own platforms because, part because I thought, well, other people have already said it. But then I thought, well, what if I never had that experience? Would I want to hear it from as many people as possible? Yes, I would, because it's the truth. And the other part was a fear, because me, before that experience, I was 100%, Christian belief that either you're going to heaven or hell. If you say anything other than that, that's blasphemy and you're definitely going to hell. So I thought, if I come out with this, the truth, and there are people who believe certain things certain ways, if they hear this, they're going to be closed off to everything else I say that could help them in their life. They'll think, oh, that's blasphemy. They won't even listen. Well, that's a fear, isn't it? So then I'm not acting out of love. And if that's what people are going to see and choose to believe, there's nothing I can do about that. That's their free will. So by not being forthcoming about where it all came from and exactly what I believe, and I'm not going to judge anyone for what they believe. I think that people's belief system is the most personal thing, and they should never be told to believe any different. If your beliefs change or evolve or devolve or whatever happens in your life, that's your free will. That's your choice. And I do believe that everyone acts in a way they feel they have to. I'm not going to say they're doing the best they could, because sometimes when we're in survival mode, we know we're not doing the best we can, but I've decided to let people decide for their own selves if they want to hear my origin of why I'm doing the work that I do, how I know things, and take from that what they will. If they don't want to listen to a word I say, then that's going to be their own choice. And maybe they'll find things through other methods. Maybe they'll find things in their chosen belief system or religious texts that are very similar, or maybe totally different. You know, I can only tell you from what I saw, from what I felt, from what I learned, from how I've lived my life for the last, it's been 26 years so far. This is true. So there is, I mean, if I didn't know any of that, I had a fear that maybe I'm going to go to hell and burn for all eternity. There is no hell. The only hell there is your life review. So if you harm 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people or 5 people, you're going to live through every experience for secondhand. No, you live through it secondhand the first time. You'll live through it firsthand, that pain that you have caused to those people. So you don't want to be bad to anyone. But other than that, it shouldn't take eternity. I mean, unless you're some world leader who caused havoc to millions and millions of people, it would be for a while and it would be painful. But the more that you live well from this moment on and consciously know that whatever you're doing to another person, you're doing to yourself, the better your life review is going to be from now on. That's part of the things that I say too, is we cannot change the past. And I can't change who I was before the experience, and I've definitely not been perfect after. I mean, we still have this human body with all the ancestral trauma and things, and sometimes you think you're doing the right thing, but then later you realize maybe you weren't. Sometimes you think you're helping, and later you realize you were controlling. Sometimes you think you were fighting for something that was right, and then later you realize you were causing chaos and not letting people have their own free will. There's a lot of things, but I could go on, and if you have any questions about anything, please post them in the comments. And I have notes, and so I'll write some more things because I wanted to just speak to you without any notes whatsoever for this video, and then take it from there. And thank you so much if you have been with me on Facebook or on YouTube. The biggest presence that I have in this world on social media sites is on Facebook since 2011. If you've just shown up there yesterday, or if you've been there since 2011, I want to thank you for being part of my dream. And I say that absolutely sincerely. And I think that's about all for now. Thank you so much. Bye.